Neale, good morning, and good morning to all our attendees. Thank you for that introduction. And yeah, welcome to everybody that made time to spend some time with us and some of our key industry thought leaders to hopefully together design a better future for the property management industry. So today it's a second day of our property management masterclass. We had a phenomenal day yesterday with amazing attendance and just amazing feedback about the platform that's been created as the Property Manager Masterclass, where we really have the aim of developing and shaping a market that is really better for everybody involved in the property management market. So end of last year, we had our last masterclass with the topic of the ultimate property management business plan, looking at really strategically how one should plan for a successful year in 2022. Post that, we had amazing feedback, and one of the key questions was asked or requests were, that's phenomenal, but there's a lot of detail within the business plan which obviously wasn't discussed, and can we maybe focus on really some practical key activities and advice that our clients can implement after a session like this. So today is really that we're going to give you guys some practical guidance and practical advice and really achieving your goals for 2022. So today, my topic is a business structure for a rapidly growing portfolio. So end of last year, we did some research, and we asked the question, what is the most important objective for you for 2022? Now, before I give you the answers of what the answer was, maybe if we can please run the poll. I just have two questions that I would like to pose to the audience before we run into the presentation. So there's the poll. There's two questions I would like you to answer. If you can please jump in and quickly answer those two poll questions for us. All right, I can see the first question. There we go. There's the polls. Okay, great. All right, I can see where the trends are heading towards. So, all right, so we asked the question to our audience. What is the most important objective for your rental portfolio in 2022? And overwhelmingly, the audience said that, or market said, we would like to know how I can grow my portfolio faster. Now, in our view, there is really two main obvious activities or strategies to follow to grow your portfolio. The one is you buy other rental books. That's obviously the easiest way to significantly increase the size of your portfolio, obviously depending on the size of book you're buying. But there are some challenges when you are buying books. First of all, it's quite hard to find a book that is for sale, and I should rather say a good book that is for sale. And obviously, you've got to have capital to be able to buy a book. It's usually quite expensive. I've had many discussions with regards to the valuation of rental books. And yes, it can be quite pricey, and you need some capital to be able to follow that strategy. The obvious and most used strategy is, well, I want to grow organically. So in growing organically, to achieve that, there's really two things that most clients deploy. First of all, they increase the marketing spend, so they make sure that the awareness of the company is out there more prevalent than their competitors, or they just increase the number of agents and hopefully through that plan or hope to gain more mandates. Now, both of these two activities are critically important and without a doubt part of growing your portfolio. The challenge that we ever see is when clients deploy these and they actually are growing at a rapid pace. Sometimes the following is the result in their business. They get to a point, let's say they bought a book, they got the extra 50, 100, 200 properties in their portfolio, and suddenly there is a problem. The wheels are coming off. And I like this visual, because this visual, the two gentlemen inside looks actually quite surprised. They don't understand what is going on. And if I can refer that back into the rental environment, why am I losing so many stock? Why am I getting so many complaints in my rental portfolio? And there are many reasons for this potentially. Looking at the market and then interviewing clients like this, we realized that there's one main reason why this is happening. Now, I want to go back to a slide that we showed end of last year when we discussed the ultimate property management business plan. And this is kind of the kind of diagram we showed of the key modules within your business plan. Now, the buying of books and increasing of growing organically, and meaning increasing marketing spend, of employing more agents, typically refer to key activities that you are deploying to grow your business. And that is always key part of doing that. The challenge is, if you are deploying those activities, but you haven't spent enough time when you did your company overview to address the following key aspects, which is, what is my business model looking like, number one, and number two, is my business structure aligned with my business model? So if clients have gone out very, eagerly going out and buying books because they want to grow their portfolio, or they've employed another 5 or 10 agents, or have increased their marketing spend significantly, yes, they potentially achieved their goal of growing their books, but potentially they've also caused a lot of headache for their business, where servers are dropping, there might be very bad staff job satisfaction, and they're ultimately losing properties or mandates from their clients. So I would like to go back to a core element before you deploy those activities that you have to get right. That would lead to a rapidly growing portfolio. Now, maybe I should say a healthy, rapidly growing portfolio. All right, so I want to go back to the business model and discuss potentially two different models that is currently found in the market. So the first model, I would like to refer to it as the conventional model. So conventionally, I would like to call them superhumans. You've got the property practitioner or the old rental agent, and that rental agent is typically responsible for a portfolio. That agent, and that is why I call them superhumans, have got a certain set of responsibilities to be able to manage and run their book. They have to go find new mandates. They list the properties on all the marketing portals. They conduct all the viewings. They manage all the applications. They have to do the credit checks of new applications. They've got to make sure all the compliance documentation is received from tenants and landlords. They've got to conduct the ingoing and outgoing inspections. Monthly, they've got to manage the accounts, the arrears, ad hoc maintenance management, and then obviously a key part is lease management. Now, this is one person on one property. And if you can think about the conventional model, typically the idea is that, an agent or property practitioner should have between 50 to 100 properties, ideally, under their management. Typically, in this model, the remuneration for an agent like this is they get 50% of the gross commission that is received on a property. Now, first of all, in most cases, when you start a rental portfolio, there's no real other way to start than to start with one person and creating some kind of a remuneration structure so to make it viable for them, number one. But obviously, they've got to do everything because it's only one person and the portfolio is small. But there are some serious challenges and shortcomings with this model. And maybe I can just touch on a few of them. Number one, I think we should all agree that this model is definitely not scalable. It is impossible for one person to grow to 100 or 200 or maybe 300 properties. Inevitably, the wheels will come off. Secondly, this model is definitely not a client-focused model. This poor agent or property practitioner, maybe I'll get that wrong a few times today, is always in the battle of, will I grow my portfolio more, getting more mandates under management? But if I do that, inevitably, I am going to deliver a poorer service to my current portfolio. So inevitably, they've got the struggle, and inevitably, everybody would like to maybe potentially earn more and grow the portfolio. But in time, because they've got so many responsibilities, it inevitably leads to poor service. Next up is all the value of your business is linked to one person. So if potentially that person leaves for whatever reason, 100% of the relationship and the value that the client received came from one person. And the risk is always, and the result ultimately is that you are losing mandates because you potentially lost one of your agents, one of your good agents. And if they went to potentially another agency, the chances of you losing mandates over time to that agent, meaning the other agency, is very, very high. Next up, profitability. So obviously, I said it clearly at the beginning of starting a portfolio, this is potentially the kind of obvious model to follow. But as you grow, you as a business owner, typically have to put some infrastructure in place. The office is usually the most obvious kind of resource you have to provide, and some infrastructure, printer, computers, marketing material, and the agent takes half of your income. And usually in time, you as a business are not making really good income from this portfolio. And if you add the top three issues with it, it's not scalable, you're not really delivering amazing service, it's really exposing the shortcomings in this model. Next up, every single time in the 1st of February, additional compliance document was added to your compliancy responsibility as a managing agent, or a property practitioner, I should say. So because there's only one person working on a portfolio, meaning there's potentially no transparency of the keep of compliancy or the adherence to compliancy in the portfolio, the risk of having a non-compliant portfolio increase massively. So usually if there's only one person, there's no other people checking or helping to ensure the necessary compliance documentation there, and the risk for that is massive. My biggest reason for the shortcoming in this model is, I want to say, that poor agent. As they grow, the kind of environment that they are running in is really just, they try just to kill the highest fires every single day. And I don't think that job is a sustainable job long-term, especially for a growing portfolio. And I just don't believe it's a really admired job description for an agent. So inevitably, the agents are getting burnout, and they typically move on after 2 or 3 years in this environment. Sorry. So the question is, what if we say that model is not the ideal model, or this model is not the ideal model? What should the ideal business model or structure look like, and what should it achieve? So let's ask the first question: what should the ideal business structure or model achieve? Well, first of all, like any good business, it should be client, meaning service orientated. If you don't focus on what the client's needs are and how you're going to deliver that consistently over time, obviously you would not lead to a rapidly growing portfolio. Secondly, I always say your first client is your team, your staff, or your agents. So can you provide an environment for them which they would like to stay in, meaning they enjoy their job, meaning your staff turnover will be reduced significantly over time. Because if you have a solid team that stays over time, the relationships are intact, and the chances of you getting additional mandates in because of the constant value delivery is definitely higher. Then the structure should be designed that would lead to rapid growth, and I'll refer back to this in a moment. It should be more manageable. If you as a business owner walk into your business and in your rental department, it should be quite easy for you to check all the key KPIs that would lead to a healthy rental portfolio, and it should be more manageable. It should definitely reduce your risk. And as a managing agent, I referred to it a moment ago, that you obviously have quite a few compliance items you have to adhere to, and you should ultimately have a structure that reduces your risk in your portfolio. Then it should definitely make you more scalable. And scalable does not mean you add more properties to the portfolio. It means you add more properties and more people to your portfolio. It means scalable is you want to increase your portfolio size with still using the same size core team to manage your portfolio. If you obviously scale effectively, you should become more profitable. And lastly, I would like to believe you should be able to communicate your value as a managing agent or rental portfolio manager better. Now, before I go into my next slide, I want to clearly state that obviously to say there's one structure in the business or in the rental environment that everybody must adopt is impossible. We recognize that there's no two businesses in South Africa that looks exactly the same. What we're going to try to communicate is a philosophy, because ultimately these ideal structure of these objective of what the ideal structure should achieve doesn't matter where your business is and what kind of model you are deploying. Ultimately, this should be achieved. We've just learned through our various travels in the country and our interactions with different clients and different business models that the following model is typically the ideal model for a scalable portfolio, and typically it definitely achieves all of these objectives we've just discussed. Okay, so the model looks something like this. First of all, Sales agent is the start of your rapidly growing structure. So in most cases, most rental agencies are tied to a sales agency. So if you are only a rental portfolio of a business, meaning you don't have any sales arm, this obviously doesn't apply to you. But in most cases, most of our clients do have a sales arm to their business. Now, sales agents are usually in the numbers, definitely more than the rental agents, and they are typically on a daily basis interacting with business owners or property owners to conduct valuations, to start a relationship, and ideally, obviously, eventually get the mandate if they want to sell. Now, in our experience, sales agents should and can be your biggest lead generators for your rental portfolio. They come across many investors, aka landlords, that are either currently managing their property themselves or currently do have the property managed by another agent, but at least that lead comes in as a potential property or mandate for your business. So your sales agents must definitely be part of your strategy to increase the lead generation for potential rental properties in your area. Usually, they get a referral from the rental portfolio if and when they are referring a rental property into the portfolio. Next up, obviously, you've got to have a rental agent. Now, if you do have a big sales office, you don't need that many rental agents. If, however, you don't have sales agents in your office, you typically might need more rental agents to increase the lead generation for your portfolio, to increase the number of mandates coming in. Typically, if you have sales agents, the lead will come in and the rental agent would typically go out and communicate your value proposition, why they should choose you as a managing agent. And then behind, hopefully they get the mandate and they will eventually do the viewing and place a tenant. But ideally then you should have what we call a management team in the back office. That consists of four key divisions. Number one, very, very important, your account manager. Next up, we call it the investor relationship manager, then a maintenance manager, and a general administration or tenant liaison. Now, obviously, if you've got a portfolio of, let's say, between 50 or 150 properties, typically it's not profitable for you or feasible for you to employ 4 people in the back office from day one. So I just want to clearly state that point. If your portfolio is that size today, obviously we understand you can't employ 4 people in the back office just to manage your current portfolio. However, you obviously would like to grow towards this, and you might be today, let's say you've got 100 properties, might focus on just having 1 or 2 people in the back office that kind of typically fulfill the functions that these 4 divisions should fulfill and helping to better manage the current portfolio. Okay, so I want to quickly just stand still a little bit on the management team and their roles and responsibilities. So like I said, the idea is that the sales agents are lead generators. The rental agents typically just present the value proposition of the agency to the investor or landlord. They get the mandate and ultimately place the tenant. From there onwards, 100% of the management of the portfolio happens in the back office. So what do these 4 people typically do from a division or roles responsibilities perspective? So the account manager does what the name says. They typically manage the accounts, they manage arrears, and they manage deposits. And typically, obviously, if a query comes in, they might, depending on how the relationship manager or if it's an investor or a tenant requesting certain financial information, they might respond. But typically, they've got a very, very focused approach on just managing one of the most important aspects of your business, which is the accounts. Then there is the investor relationship manager. Now, today, in most agencies, they don't have a direct contact for the investor or landlord that really thinks and focuses on how they can increase the value of the client's asset under your management. So this is a key and a critical part of your strategy to increase the value of your business to your client. So this is the key person and liaison for the investor. So the investor, your client, will always just speak to one person. And that person ultimately will be the eyes and ears of your client inside the business, making sure that the account is properly managed, making sure that the maintenance is properly managed, making sure that when it comes to lease renewal, that this investor relation managers can provide valuable insights about the market and propose typical renewal terms, or potentially to say, hey man, I don't think we should carry on with this tenant. So this is the one person inside your business that thinks and breathes with the objectives of your client, the investor. If you deploy this, I can promise you the value perception of your client would drastically increase, because there's someone inside your business that thinks about your client all the time. They also do typically communicate the assets performance under your management at the end of the year. The maintenance manager, again, obvious, they'll typically manage all the maintenance. This is quite a focus and a dedicated job. So yeah, obviously a very focused approach. And then lastly is your general administration or tenant liaison. So all typical tenant queries comes to this person. They typically help with some admin to check and load all the managed leases. They list all the properties and manage on the marketing portals, and they potentially might help with some applications. Obviously, there's a host of other detail that's not on the slide, but that's just typically the key activities that this management team does. All right, so if you can get to deploying this structure, what do we believe are the benefits of this, and would this ultimately achieve those ideal objectives we set out in the beginning? All right, so first of all, the benefits of the management team. First of all, they are focused on managing your portfolio. That inevitably leads to service excellence, meaning the accounts manager can become an expert in managing the accounts and can really keep their finger on the key performance areas within the account management. It's obviously a lot easier when you have a management team with dedicated roles or responsibilities to manage KPIs better, not only for you as business owner or manager, but even for the person to manage his role better. Definitely, without a doubt, this definitely creates a better working environment for your team. Obviously, you've got a management team and not only one person. So your value is not linked to one person. So your risk of losing potential business is dramatically reduced if you potentially do lose a person over time. That the management and relationship sits with the back office, not with a single agent. Secondly, with the investor relation manager, that key person that thinks and dreams about the client's mandate every day. First of all, it's one contact person for your client. They focus on increasing the value of the asset under your management, making sure that maintenance management or account management is done in such a way that there's physically benefit for the client over a 12-month period. They're also the key liaison between departments, making sure, as an example, that arrears are properly managed from a tenant perspective, that maintenance management are done cost effectively, and ultimately you can communicate better value to your client. The dedicated rental agent, first of all, their whole world is just focused on getting new stock. Because they're not involved in day-to-day management, they can focus on making sure they get more mandates every single day. From a remuneration perspective, they also have the ability to have an unlimited size portfolio because they don't get involved with the management. Their role is just bringing new stock. Their remuneration structure can enable them to really earn amazing good money, because every single time they bring in more mandates or stock into the portfolio, there can be a direct benefit for them from a remuneration point of view. So you've got someone that's focused on growing their portfolio, and secondly, they get incentivized as they grow with an unlimited cap on how many properties can be in the portfolio because they're not involved into day-to-day management. Then, if you do have a sales arm, obviously there should be a once-off commission for referral that incentivizes them to generate leads to you. The property ultimately, if the landlord eventually would like to sell, will get referred back to the sales agent. And there's also innovative ideas about potentially giving them also some recurring income, which is a big need for any sales agent that usually only works on once-off commission. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that based on our experience firsthand, as well as our interaction with amazing clients that deploys the structure in their business, we've seen that this is the structure that in time will enable you to have a rapidly healthy growing portfolio. And without this, you can buy books and you can spend a lot of money on marketing or increase agent size. The chances of you growing a portfolio is not always guaranteed. There are obviously other elements also involved in growing your business, which is the most important thing. You've got to have the right people on the bus. You've got to have good remuneration structure to retain people. You've got to have a solid value proposition. You've got to have a good marketing strategy, and you've got to make sure that there's a proper team and client retention strategies. But the start is create a healthy structure to enable you to grow. So with that, I would like to end, and I trust maybe there were some important aspects of the structure that you guys are already employing or could potentially adopt over time in your business. And hopefully you can create a baseline structure to help you grow a healthy portfolio. So